Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today we are thinking about sights. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, how simple but complex all at the same time. So that is what we are going to be thinking about today is sight with our special guest, Xavier. Yes, thank you so much for coming onto my show, sharing your time and your perspective with me. This is truly an honor to really pick your brain about this. So let's just dive right in. When you think of sights, what does that make you think about?
Well, when I think of sight, I think of what people can't see. That's
Hmm.
what I think of sight, because I see different than what the mass population sees. So that's what I think. It's just me, though.
No, I like it because now you're going deep, and
Oh, yeah,
the whole point of my show is to dive deep, not go on to the
yeah,
surface level. We're not swimming like little tadpoles.
yeah,
No, we are diving deep like octopuses and those little fishes with the little things on top.
yeah. That's with the whales. Yeah.
This is exactly what we need to think about is exactly how do you necessarily see things differently than other people then?
As you know, I've had a NDE before, near-death experience, and I heal people. I've had that since I was 5 years old. So since I was little, I've been able to see things. Yeah, I've been able to see things. So when I see things, I could see silhouettes like white silhouettes, like as if a person sees uh, a loved one that passed or something like that, or if they just see a spirit or something like that, and not getting all you know, I won't say spiritual, but not getting all into a scary or taboo mode. But that's just what I see, and a lot of times I'm like, I don't, I don't got time for that right now, so forth. But I do like if I like want to relax and sit down and see things, or if I close my eyes, then I will.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, because I can see things too, trust me.
Oh, yeah,
And the things that I've seen in my life, like sometimes they're pretty scary and sometimes they're beautiful and sometimes they're just like, well, I'll just leave you right there.
yeah, yeah,
So I know exactly what you mean because sometimes when you don't see in that type of perspective, you're not able to see things that aren't um what people would usually see.
yeah.
It kind of makes you feel like, is it even there? So how do you necessarily come across from knowing that it's actually there versus you're you're perceiving it to be there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 no, definitely. Well, I think over the years or decades or so of your life, when you see things, say if you're in a house and then someone says, "Oh my God, I just seen this," like I think I think I see it, and then as time goes on, you're like, "Oh yeah," like that's something, I see that from time to time. Like, no way, get out of here! You really see that? Yeah, but it's just it's just part of life for me. So, but it's real. Yeah, I've seen exactly the way you described. Yeah, I've seen that, and they're like, no way, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but for me, it's not a big deal. It's, probably the same thing like yourself. It's not a big deal. You're like, hey, it's just something. But then when you see something um, uh, bad or very unorthodox, um, you've seen it because you'll see some of the things that happen after or some of the things that happened before to tell you maybe something was coming, something you were going to see, something that you were going to see that was like maybe unusual and bad, stuff like that. You're like, wow, okay, well, that's just a regular pattern. That's just how it goes. That's how it goes after 5 years of life, after 10, 15, 20. Hey, it is what it is. That's just what it is. And then when people verify that by telling you, hey, I seen this thing the other day by your place, or I seen this thing, this person when I was by the store. Oh, I seen that by that store too. Like, yeah, like yeah, that makes sense and so forth.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like sometimes it's just confirmation of what you already know or what you already see. But yeah, it's literally just something that we become accustomed to.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes people like they get uneasy knowing that something's next to them or something's near them or something's on them because they don't necessarily know. You know what I mean? It's that the unknown that makes it scary, but in reality, it's like it's not that scary. It's just do something, you know what I mean? Do something
Yeah.
about it or just figure out why it's attached to you or figure out why it's in your home. Because I remember one time I went to my friend's house, a coworker's house. She was having like a little dinner or whatever. And when I pulled up, like I was like, okay, seems a little dark. And then when I walked in to her room, I noticed that she had a lot of like trinkets and stuff, but I was like, okay, no big deal. But then we walked into her library and I was just like, oh, something's really heavy here. And then I did like a scan, and when I scanned her room, like this I don't even know how to explain it, but something was in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something was in her room. It was in the corner and it looked intense, but when because it knows, you know what I mean? It knows when you have the sight because when
Yeah.
you have the sight, it gives you this smirk like I know I notice you noticing me noticing you.
Yeah.
So it gives you that confirmation. And then once I see it, I kind of just like pray over myself, do a little protection, and then just keep it going because at the end of the day, if you're comfortable with it being in your house and it doesn't scare you and or you don't notice it, well then who am I to bring it to your attention? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm not one to bring it to someone's attention, especially if it's not something that they are comfortable to talk about. You know what I mean? How do you
Yeah.
necessarily
Mhm.
deal with it when you know that someone is has something in their house and they're just not comfortable to acknowledge it?
Yeah. Like if you're asking me that question, um, I would just because if I had to do that to acknowledge something was somewhere every time, I mean, I'd be wasting so much time. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a waste of time, but like, it's just a part of life.
Yeah.
So if you got to keep on, hey man, I seen something here over here. Hey man, there's something over here. Hey man, there's some over here. Hey girl, I seen something over
The
there. Then
yeah.
after a while, it's like, hey man, like what did you just say? This and that. And so, you don't want to go through that over and over and over because I mean, I could do that literally every day if I came across somebody and I was walking around here, there, at home, or at someone else's home, or in the street, or in a public setting. It's like, you know, they'll get it one day. They'll get it if it really needs to come to them, they'll get it, and that'll be that.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, once they receive it, then they receive it. If not, then who cares? Because yeah, it does get exhausting, and you really can't point it out to everybody all the time because there's so much living among us. There's so much going on in our universe, in our plane that people don't realize like we're one dimension, but there's so much other things going on in our one dimension. You know what I mean? Just because
Mhm.
we see only a piece of paper, it doesn't mean that that's all that's there. So my question to you is when did you start helping people? Like, you know what I mean? Because you talk about this, you have events about this, you have a whole website about this. So it's like, when did you realize you could start utilizing your own site for good?
Well, when I was 5 years old, I was probably about was that one about 4 blocks away from my house. Um, and I was on the kitty corner away from the park, and there was someone right across the street from me. There was a mom and a child. He was hugging her waist with his face implanted, in her stomach, and she was holding him, and they were both crying. And so, as a 5 year old, because I can still see it like as if it was today, when I retract back in my mind, as a 5 year old, you're kind of freaked out, like, what? They're crying. They're crying. They're in public. Like, what the oh my God, this must be something catastrophic, as a 5 year old.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Then there's a little part of you that's scared. I remember I was scared at that age to see them, like, oh, and I'm looking around like, what could they be afraid of? What could they be crying for? This and that. And then something inside of me is like, I want to help them. I want to help them. I don't know what it was, but I was just, that's how I felt. I want to help them. Maybe I can help them. Maybe I can help them. And then I just looked their way and I closed my eyes and I put my head down and then I felt this white light, surround me, and then I wanted it to go towards them. And then I just held that, and I seen them with white light around them. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna open my eyes now. And then I opened my eyes, and probably about 2 seconds later, they stopped. The little kid stopped uh, holding his mom. He's looking around, she's looking around, but they stopped crying right away. And I'm like, oh, I'm just looking at them, and they're like looking around, because there was a bus stop right there. Uh, and they just looked like what
Everything
happened?
was okay.
Yeah, and then I was like, whoa, did I do that? I said, whoa. I started looking at my hands, I'm like, I was like,
Mm.
hey, what's going on? What's that mean? What's that mean? I kept on saying that, like, oh my God, I'm a superhero. I, I'm a superhero. Oh my God, when am I gonna fly? Am I gonna fly next? Like I started saying all these dumb things to myself because I can remember it like yesterday. Like maybe I'm a superhero. Oh my God, who am I gonna tell? And I'm still looking at them, and they're just like, just looking around. Now the kid's talking to the mom, she's talking to him, blah blah blah. They got like regular faces without that sadness and stuff like that. And then I left, and then I just walking home, and I was like, oh my God, what if I did that? Maybe I did it. Maybe it's just, but I think I did that, because, the 5-year-old, the childness, the child,
And
as being a child, it's going to take over more than being an adult would, I think, because as a child, you don't have nothing blocking you. As an
yeah,
adult, you got all this mind stuff,
noise. Yeah.
that life has put on you and so forth. But as a child, it's like, I think I did that. I think I did that. Wow, what made that? I'm asking all these questions, and I'm walking home, only like about so many blocks away. And I'm like, oh, what? Who am I going to tell? I'm not telling nobody. I'm not telling nobody. Nope, nope, no, I'm not going to tell nobody. But as time went on, then I would look for people who they had the face of, oh, this hurts. Oh, like something like that. So then I could go ahead and try it again on them. And then I would tell my mom, hey, if she says, okay, I'll be back, guys, I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to take your brother. I'm going to take your sister, blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, I want to go. Like, hey, can you take me, please? Just let me go. Let me go. Let me go. You want? Well, you want to go there? Like, I thought you hated it. Yeah, I hate them, but I'm not going for me. So, therefore, can I go? Okay, come on, let's go. And then I would always look for the person who looked sick, wasn't just there for an appointment, but the person who looked sick, who was hurling, who was like, just get me in, one of those types of things. And then I would do the same thing to them. And then I would put my head down and do the same thing. And then I would feel that light. And then I'd feel it going at that person. And then I open up my eyes, and then I would just look like, okay, let's see. And then they would do the same thing real quick. And they would touch that area. So if it was their shoulder or their arm or their stomach, they would touch it. Like, hey, hey, come on, hey, Mr. Symptom, come on, you got to come back up. That's what we're here for. I don't, it was one of those things. You could see it there, and their faces and their body language, because their body language just would change, and then uh, they would just like feel better. And at times, after a while, after I did that to somebody, they would literally go up and go to the desk where you would come in with the admitting or whatever. And hey, I'm gonna reschedule. I got somewhere to go, blah blah blah. I'm just gonna reschedule. And that's that. And then I would say, wow, I think they felt better. That worked. Okay, cool. But then I would second guess myself. Well, maybe they just had another appointment and they had to go somewhere else. In my 5-year-old mind,
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't me, this and that. But it just kept on happening over and over and over. Especially like if we went to a hospital. Oh man, I like going to a hospital. So I'd be like, oh wow, I'm gonna have. Oh, this is gonna be so good. I could catch so many people at the hospital because they're usually worse. That's what I would think. And that would happen, when we go to the hospitals too. so forth. Yeah, and it just kept on going and going and going.
Well, that's beautiful. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful gift that you have, and that you are not being selfish with it, and that you are truly trying to help heal the world in such a way that it's not just for you, you know what I mean? Because you can just heal yourself or just heal your family, but you truly looked out and seen other people and was like, you know what, let's see if this works for them. You know what I mean? Let's see if it
Yeah.
works. It's a hit or miss, 50-50 chance. If it works, great. And if it doesn't, well then oh well, that's something greater than me that has out of my control. But I think that's a beautiful thing that you have because I can see and I mean, I can see a lot of things out there in this world, but at the same time, like that healing portion, that is not something that is very common. You know what I mean? I could pray for somebody, I can do all that, but that's not the same as what you're doing. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that is what makes you most definitely unique, because sight is one thing, but to heal is a whole nother thing. Oh my goodness, it's a beautiful thing. So it's like I guess I have to ask you, what are three things that you're grateful for in this life then?
Oh man. Well, I have a son, so he's number one. Um, and family, of course. Um, Let me see. Well, I'm grateful for too much, I would say. So to pick out um, three, uh, that's kind
Kind
of
of
hard
hard.
because you're all mixing. Hey, like this morning I got to flush the toilet bowl, or you turn on the water. I mean, they're basics, but it's like, well, what about those people that are in this country, or they're in Gaza, or they're here or there? They can't do that. They got to go get a bucket of water or walk a mile away and come back and so forth. They can't do that. But it's just everyday living that takes over. You get so used to what you have. Your everyday necessities are not other people's everyday necessities. So yeah, there's just so much, but just those few right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's beautifully said. I don't think I've had anyone that really break it down in that aspect, but I do. I mean, that's one thing I always pray and I always thank God for because, man, just having that understanding that other people just don't have access to the amenities or life that we do just makes you so much grateful. Like, oh, I have electricity, how beautiful is that? I have AC, oh my goodness, how beautiful is that? You know what I mean? I have
Yeah,
internet, I have a computer, I have just a working toilet, oh my goodness, yeah, that's beautiful. To have a working shower and working plumbing, that's beautiful. Like, people don't realize how beautiful it is to have something as just a functioning home, because there's other people that don't. I mean, I've lived in places that there was no electricity sometimes, or there was no water sometimes. So I know the struggles of just having that accessibility. And I know that is truly something that I'm thankful for. When something goes wrong, like I'm like, let's fix this right now because I don't want to continue on and because I already know how that goes and it's gonna be a hot mess. So yes, I know exactly what you mean. It is truly grateful to just have just your life, you know what I mean? Just your
yeah,
family and just your loved ones, you know what I mean? And just eat healthy. Oh my goodness, health is wealth. And people don't realize that. So I mean, like really, you can really do go on and on with the list and
yes, you
list of
could.
things because there's so much things to be grateful for in this world, like why complain? Why complain? There's so many things to be grateful for. There's no reason to complain. So yeah, I think that is something that is amazing. And it sucks to know that time is catching up to us because I do feel like we can dive in deeper into this topic and into different avenues like we are, but time is catching up to us. So what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Well, one thing I always say, especially like let's say if I go do a visit, hospital visit, and most of the times, but if I do a hospital visit, it's always a ICU, intensive care. It's always something like that, or emergency room. Um, so a person would see someone in dire straits, especially a family member. They get this news. Hey, like it doesn't look good. Hey, hit or miss, doctor telling the family members and this and that. And what I tell family members after, I look at this person and so forth, I says, hey, listen, it looks bad. It looks horrible. I says, but it's you're never at the end, man. I says, there's always a way. I said, there's always a way. There's always a way. I said, your loved one or so forth. You can say their name. That doesn't mean they're going to go because they said they're going to go and so forth. Let's give me a few minutes. Let's see what we could do. No matter how bad it looks, let's see what we could do. But just remember that it's never over. It's never over. Like there's that stopwatch and that clock, for every game. And some teams win with 1 second left. Some teams win with 3 seconds left. Some teams win, like as some people could see on basketball games, with a 500th of a seconds left before the game's over, and then that one shot, it crushes somebody's world and it heightens somebody's world because they're going to be the winners and so forth. But it's never over until it's over, literally. That's what I always tell people.
Yeah, that's beautiful because there's always a chance. There's always an opportunity.
Always a chance.
There's always hope, you know what I mean? And I think that's what people need in this world. There's hope. There needs to be hope. And if you can able to hold on to that hope, I think that right there truly changes your perspective on life and perspective in what's actually possible. Like one thing I hold on to is that sometimes the impossible is only impossible for man, but in reality there's so much possibility that can come out of us because humans are so much more than what we can even fathom. So when you allow ourselves to believe the impossible as possible, then it can truly become possible. And so
Yeah,
it's like there's always that 50-50 window. Death will always be there. Let's be honest. It will always linger around and it will always tell us there's a time lapse, but there's always a way to extend it. You know what I mean? Just like you said, there is always a way to extend your life because I've seen people that have extended their life. I prayed for people that I knew when they were going to die, and I still was able to pray for them, and they've extended their life beyond what they were supposed to die. It was supposed to a long time ago.
yeah,
So trust me, I truly, truly stand by what you're saying. And I thank you so much for coming onto my show and sharing your perspective with me and your experiences and your life, you know what I mean, your life memories with me because you didn't have to tell those stories, you know what I mean, but you did and I appreciate that because they hold value, you know what I mean? They hold value to me and to my listeners and somebody out there to hopefully give them that hope that maybe whatever the situation that you're going on or whatever is in your life, there's hope on the other side. Just believe it. You know what I mean? Or contact Xavier. You know what I mean? Contact Xavier. I have access to his website. If you're listening in audio or if you're on YouTube, you'll find his website on in the description. Or if you're on my website, just find his photo, click on it, and it goes directly to his website. So you can find all the great content that he has to offer the world so that you can continue on thinking or continue on seeing, right? So with that being said, bye.